The Saturday afternoon crowd at Willowbrook Plaza was like any other weekend, families shopping, teens laughing near the fountain, and vendors calling out their daily specials. Nothing about the day suggested it would end, etched into the memory of everyone there. But then Karen arrived. She stormed through the automatic glass doors of the plaza's flagship store, her heels striking the tiles like drumbeats of war. In her hand, she clutched a receipt, crumpled, worn, almost weaponized by the force with which she waved it. Behind her, a nervous teenage employee followed, clearly dragged into a storm he never volunteered for. "I said I want a full refund. Do you people even understand customer service?" Karen's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. Heads turned, conversations hushed. A child clutched her mother's hand as though sensing the chaos about to unfold. The store manager, a calm man in his 40s named Daniel, stepped forward. He had dealt with frustrated customers before, but something in Karen's demeanor told him this was different. Her eyes burned with indignation. Her shoulders squared like a soldier ready for battle. "Ma'am," Daniel began evenly, "I'll gladly look into this. Could you please explain what the issue is?" "The issue," Karen snapped, slamming the receipt onto the counter, "is that your company sold me a defective product and then had the audacity to suggest I did something wrong. Me, a paying customer." The crowd swelled near the counter. Some people pulled out their phones, eager to capture what promised to be an unforgettable spectacle. Karen noticed them, but only grew louder. "Go ahead, record me. Everyone should know how this store treats people like me." Daniel's patience wavered, though he kept his voice steady. "I understand you're upset, but shouting won't solve this. Let's talk through it calmly." "Calmly?" Karen's laugh was sharp, almost theatrical. "You want calm when I've been humiliated, cheated, and ignored? No. Everyone here is going to see what happens when justice is denied." With that, she knocked over a display of neatly stacked gift boxes. They tumbled to the floor in a cascade of color and noise. Gasps echoed through the store. Parents shielded their children's eyes. Phones zoomed in. But just as the chaos reached its peak, something strange happened. Karen froze. A man in the crowd had stepped forward. Not an employee. Not security. Just a quiet figure with a calm presence. His eyes locked on hers, and for a brief moment, the storm inside Karen seemed to falter. The question rippled through the crowd, and through every person watching. Who was this man? And what was he about to do? The man who stepped forward didn't look like someone who enjoyed the spotlight. He was tall, dressed simply in jeans and a gray jacket, his hands tucked loosely into his pockets. Yet, when his eyes met Karen's, the energy in the plaza shifted. The murmurs quieted, cameras steadied, and all attention seemed to settle on this one stranger. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm but carrying an authority that silenced the crowd. "This isn't the way." Karen blinked, as if the words offended her more than the store's policies. "Excuse me? Who even are you? This is none of your business." Her arms flailed, knocking over a few more boxes. Daniel, the manager, looked relieved for the first time that day. He clearly had no idea who the man was either, but something about him felt reassuring. The stranger stepped closer, his tone steady. "You're upset. That's clear to everyone here. But anger this loud doesn't fix what you came for. It only makes the problem bigger." Karen's jaw tightened. "Don't you dare lecture me!" "I have a right to be angry. I've been wronged," a woman in the crowd called out. "We all have problems, lady." Others chuckled nervously, emboldened by the stranger's calm resistance to her fury. Karen spun toward the crowd, her face flushed. "Of course you'd all take his side. That's what always happens, isn't it? People like me are always painted as the villain." The stranger didn't flinch. Instead, he pointed toward the crumpled receipt still sitting on the counter. "If what you want is fairness, then let's start there. Let's see what the paper says. Facts, not volume, win arguments." For a moment, Karen hesitated. Her hand hovered over the receipt, but pride stiffened her spine. "You think this is about paper? It's about respect." Then came the sound that shifted the entire scene. A small voice, trembling but brave. From near the fountain, a little girl spoke up. "You're scaring everyone." Karen's head whipped toward her. The girl clutched a teddy bear, eyes wide but unblinking. The crowd fell silent. The stranger turned his gaze back to Karen. His words were soft now, almost like a verdict. "This isn't strength. It's noise, and the more noise you make, the more you lose the respect you're demanding." Something in his tone, paired with the child's simple honesty, landed deeper than any argument before. Karen staggered a step back. The phones kept rolling, every second of her reaction captured. And then, like lightning cracking across a summer sky, Karen made a choice that stunned everyone. The air inside Willowbrook Plaza felt electric, charged with the weight of anticipation. Dozens of eyes fixed on Karen, waiting for her next move. The stranger's words still hung in the air, but Karen's pride burned hotter than reason. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Then in one swift motion, she grabbed the receipt from the counter and tore it into pieces. The shreds fluttered to the ground like confetti at a parade, though no one was celebrating. "There!" she shouted. "That's what I think of your so-called facts. You all want a show? Fine, watch this." Gasps rippled through the crowd as she turned on her heel and shoved over the gift display completely, sending boxes skidding across the floor. Children cried, their parents pulling them back. Phones filmed every moment, lenses capturing her fury from every angle. Daniel, the manager, stepped forward at last, his patience unraveling. "Ma'am, that's enough. You're disrupting the store, frightening customers, and destroying property. If you don't stop right now, I'll have no choice but to call security." Karen's voice cracked, but she raised it anyway. "Do it! Call them!" "I'm not afraid."
"This whole place needs to see how little you care about the people who shop here."
The stranger didn't move, though his eyes stayed fixed on her. His silence seemed to press harder than words could. The little girl with the teddy bear still stood near the fountain, watching wide-eyed, her small voice echoing in Karen's memory. "You're scaring everyone." But Karen doubled down. She picked up one of the fallen boxes and hurled it across the aisle. It crashed into a rack of accessories, sending merchandise tumbling. The crowd gasped again. One man muttered, "She's lost it." Another whispered, "This is going viral." And then karma arrived. The box Karen had thrown hadn't just hit the accessory rack. It had knocked loose a precariously balanced display above it, a towering pyramid of promotional water bottles. With a dramatic wobble, the structure gave way. Dozens of bottles cascaded down like a tidal wave, splashing across the tiles. The floor turned slick in seconds. Karen, still shouting, didn't notice until too late. She stepped backward, her heel slipping on the water-slick tiles. Her arms flailed, her voice caught in her throat, and she went down hard, landing flat with a splash that soaked her expensive outfit. The crowd erupted, half in shock, half in laughter. Phones zoomed in, capturing the moment frame by frame. Karen lay on the floor, stunned, drenched, and humiliated. For the first time, she didn't shout. She didn't argue. She just stared up at the ceiling, breathing heavily, as the reality of her spectacle washed over her like the spilled water. And in that silence, the stranger finally stepped forward again. For the first time since the chaos began, Karen didn't speak. She sat on the wet tiles, drenched, her hair clinging to her face in tangled strands. The water pooled around her, reflecting the bright store lights like shards of broken glass. The once commanding woman now looked smaller, fragile, her defiance swallowed by silence. The crowd, uncertain, held its breath. Some were still recording, but the laughter that had erupted moments earlier quieted. What remained was a charged stillness, everyone waiting to see what would happen next. Daniel cautiously stepped closer. His voice softened, no longer stern but almost sympathetic.
"Ma'am, are you hurt?"
Karen didn't answer. Her eyes darted around, scanning the people who watched her. Hundreds of strangers who had seen her fury, her fall, and her humiliation. Each phone felt like a spotlight, every whisper a judgment. And then, the stranger crouched down beside her. He didn't mock. He didn't gloat. His calm presence seemed to cut through the noise. "This isn't the end of the world," he said quietly, "but it is a chance to decide how the story ends, for you." Karen blinked, her pride and vulnerability waging war inside her. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. "They're all laughing at me." The stranger shook his head. "Not all of them. Some are hoping you'll stand up. Not with more anger, but with strength. There's a difference." The little girl near the fountain clutched her teddy tighter. In a small but clear voice she added, "It's okay to say sorry." Those words pierced deeper than any reprimand. Karen's eyes brimmed with tears, though she quickly blinked them back. She tried to gather herself, brushing strands of wet hair from her face, her hands trembling. Daniel extended his hand. Hesitant, Karen looked at it, then at the crowd. Pride told her to swat it away, to rise on her own, to cling to the last shred of control. But another voice, quieter, unfamiliar, almost foreign to her, whispered that perhaps this was the moment to change. She took his hand. Slowly, shakily, she stood. The crowd murmured, surprised by the gesture. For the first time all afternoon, she didn't raise her voice. She simply stood there, soaked and humbled, trying to steady her breath. The stranger rose with her, his words calm but firm. "What happens next isn't about what you've lost. It's about what you choose to do now." The cameras were still rolling. The crowd was still watching. But Karen had a choice: cling to her anger, or face her own reflection in the eyes of strangers. Her lips parted, but what she said next would determine how everyone remembered her. Karen stood in the center of the store, water dripping from her clothes, the crowd circling like a silent jury. Her chest rose and fell in uneven breaths as dozens of phone cameras continued to record. Every eye waited for her next move. For once, Karen didn't shout. She didn't demand. She didn't even try to explain. Her gaze shifted from Daniel's extended hand to the little girl, holding her teddy bear, then finally to the stranger, who had challenged her anger without raising his voice. Her voice cracked. The word hung awkwardly, as though she had forgotten how to speak without venom. She swallowed, forcing herself to continue. I'm sorry. The word echoed in the plaza. Gasps rippled through the crowd, not because of its volume, but because of its rarity. Karen, the woman who had stormed in with fire blazing, now looked smaller, human, vulnerable. Daniel gave a cautious nod. Thank you. That's all anyone wanted. Karen looked down at the ruined boxes scattered across the tiles, then at the pool of water still glistening around her. She bent slowly, picking up one of the fallen items and setting it back on the display. It was clumsy, but deliberate. The crowd softened, whispers turning from ridicule to quiet surprise. The stranger stepped closer, his tone steady. Strength isn't about overpowering others. It's about choosing the harder path, even when pride tells you not to. Karen met his eyes, and for the first time, didn't fight the truth in them. She turned back to the crowd, shoulders slumping. I was wrong, she admitted, her voice carrying just enough to be heard. I shouldn't have acted like that. A hush fell. Phones kept rolling, but now the footage showed not a villain's rage, but a flawed person's surrender. The moment shifted, heavy with something rare, empathy. The little girl whispered to her mother. She said sorry. Her mother smiled faintly and nodded. Daniel gestured to an employee to begin cleaning the spill, then turned back to Karen. We'll handle the mess. Why don't you take a moment outside? His tone wasn't cold, it was merciful. Karen nodded, almost grateful, and stepped carefully toward the exit. Her soaked shoes squeaked against the tiles. The crowd parted for her, but not with hostility. Some even lowered their phones. As she reached the doors, she glanced back once. The stranger remained where he stood, calm, unreadable. For a heartbeat, their eyes met. She mouthed a silent thank you, and then she was gone, disappearing into the daylight beyond the glass doors. The plaza slowly returned to normal, though everyone knew they had witnessed something unforgettable. Phones buzzed with uploaded videos, destined to spread across the internet. But for those who had been there in person, it wasn't just a story of outrage. It was a story of a fall, a reckoning, and the smallest spark of redemption. Instant karma, captured, shared, and remembered. What we just witnessed wasn't just a meltdown. It was a lesson. Anger might explode in public, but the choices we make afterward define who we truly are. If you found this story powerful, hit that subscribe button and join us for more unbelievable moments of instant karma. Don't forget to like this video if it kept you hooked, and drop a comment below. Do you think Karen truly changed? Or was this just another performance? Your thoughts matter, and we can't wait to read them.